Hey gang, Ronan here. Welcome on back to the Cade and another episode of Sports Saturday. Now, this may come as a surprise to a lot of you who've been tuning in over the last 20 odd weeks, but surprise, we're not playing Sega Sports NFL 2K2 this week. If you tuned in for the last episode, then you understand what we're doing. If not, I'll fill you in. We got through season 1. We did our off season last week. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a slight pause on that before we jump into season 2. There will be a season 2. It will just not be coming until the start of December. So we're going to go for the next 3 weeks and we're going to try some different games. And what better way to kick that little bit of a respite off than to play a game that represents a sport I have no familiarity with at all. We're going to go back to 1995 and the Sega Genesis / MegaDrive. We're going to play Lara Cricket. Now, for 2 questions. Why on earth are we playing a cricket game, and who the heck is Lara? Well, if you were not of similar age to me, that name may not mean anything to you. But Brian Charles Lara, who was born in Trinidad in 1969, went on to have one of the most established and decorated careers of anyone who's ever played the sport, based on what I can tell. He played 20 years in cricket, both nationally, internationally, at all levels, and is considered one of the greatest batsmen of all time, holding multiple records that still stand to this day, including but not limited to, he scored apparently a 501 not out, which means he scored 501 consecutive points for Warwickshire against Durham in 1994, and the record for the highest individual score in international test innings, putting up 400 against Antigua during the 4th test against England in 2004. What does all that mean? I genuinely don't have that much of an idea, but what I will try and do over the course of the next 30 minutes or so is fill you in. So what we're going to do first, though, is we're going to set up a couple of match settings on this for the sake of making this a little bit easier. So how cricket works is there are, at least modern cricket, and you have to bear in mind, this is a 30-year-old game. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the number of overs, which is the number of times that one team can bat before the other team has to bat. And as you can see, we can go as high as 90 or we can go unlimited. We're going to go for 10, just for the sake of sanity and for making it a little bit easier. We're also going to set fielding to automatic because when I did my test run on this game, the manual fielding, while not difficult, makes the game a lot more tedious, and we're only going to keep it for 2 innings, which means we should both sides should have a chance to bat at least once. We'll figure out if at the end of half an hour if we want to keep going or not, and then we'll set up a new match. So we're going to do it this way with a 1-player match. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick England because why not? And then I'm going to have the computer auto-pick my team. Now, this game actually features real players in it, although I don't know the degree of how much that is. And then what I will do is I will pick this... let's pick India. I have coworkers who, in my day job, who are from India, and they're the ones who actually turned me on the idea of trying a cricket game. Just because they're really into cricket. So this game, like I said, came out on the PC in 1994. It was released on the MegaDrive in Europe only in 1995, and it was made by Codemasters, the same Codemasters who happen to currently make the Formula 1 annual game as part of now being under EA Sports purview. Which, if you're an F1 fan like I am and you play those games, it's one where you can take it a couple of different ways. Now, I'm going to leave the batting order as it is because I don't know genuinely if changing it is going to make that much of a difference. So we start on the first inning and we will bat first. So, once we get here, I'm going to pause this really quick. So, if you are like me, and you have no familiarity with the sport of cricket, I'm not surprised if you live in the U.S., but the basics of this game is that both teams field 11 players, and then one of them is called the bowler. Basically, if you know your baseball, they're like the pitcher. And what they're aiming at is they're trying to get the ball to hit those wickets, which are those 3 posts that are behind my batter, behind that black circle. You'll also notice there are 3 posts down front here in this rectangle where this guy with the fancy hat is. He's one of the umpires. And then the other guy to his right is another batsman. So how cricket works is that the bowler will pitch the ball basically to the batsman. The batsman hits it, and then how this game works is that both batsmen, the guy who I will be controlling and the guy down front here, they take off running at the same time. We're trying to get from one side to the other before the ball is thrown back in and hits the wickets. If that counts, if that happens, that's an out. If the batsman or the bowler throws and hits the wickets, that's an out. If I hit the ball and a fielder happens to catch it on the fly, that's an out. A cricket field is actually a big oval in which this rectangle is square in the middle. You can hit the ball as far as you want. There's a boundary line on the far edge of it. If it rolls out, that's 4 runs. If you hit it out on the fly, the equivalent of a home run, that's 6. So what I have to do is I've got to set my player up where I can go ahead and try and hit this ball like so. And then it's just off and running. And you see that diagram where we are moving. Now, this game is controlled entirely with your B button on your controller. So I swung and whiffed there. See if I can hit this ball. There we go. Now, the runners can keep going up to 4 times. So if I really hit the ball well, I don't just have them stop once. I can have them keep on going. And he tagged me with that ball. And we take off again, and that's another run. Now, this is basically how cricket goes. It's just these guys will run back and forth once you make contact. Except that one counted as an out because they hit the wickets. So now Stewart is out. So now he does not get to bat again. And that's the end of the first over. So I scored 3 runs. They got 1 wicket, which is why you see it 3-1, basically. Now, if I want to, I can check the scorecard. I can change the batting order. I can declare, which means my side basically concedes any more attempts to hit, and the remaining overs, of which we have 9 more. Or I could save it, or I can abandon the match. I'm not going to declare because I want to keep on piling up runs. And we got a late start there, but we got it. Sometimes the B button when you want to run is a little bit temperamental. It doesn't necessarily always want to go the way it tries to, but we got there in time, so that's 2 more runs. Now, in setting it up as a batsman, what you do is you hit B, and you can move your batter to meet the ball before it's thrown. You press the B button back, and it essentially cocks your bat ready to swing. And then you'll hit it again to follow through. But he got the wicket on that one, so now Atherton is out. So now it's 7 runs for 2 wickets. Now the gauges you see on the right side are the pitcher, or the bowler I should say, and that is them setting up their throw. So one thing I have learned in doing my research for this game is that apparently if you're a bowler, you don't want to be spending all your time trying to really spin the ball, and you're trying not to throw it as hard as you can because you're going to be up there a while. Now, you can have left-handed bowlers, you can have right-handed bowlers. It does not matter. And there are apparently 3 types of cricket that are played nowadays. There is what's called 20. I think it's 2020. Because that's an out. Which the match lasts a limit of 3 hours. Then there's one day international where the match limit is 8 hours. And then there's what's called test. And test cricket is considered the definitive version of cricket. And that can last forever. And when I say forever, I'm not kidding. I think they've changed the rules now where they have ultimately put a cap of how long a test match can go at 5 days. If you know for sure, leave it down in the comments. But again, I am very much a rookie when it comes to all this. So, but I know at one point there has been cricket matches that have lasted for the better part of like half a month. And in the meantime, they're picking up wickets left and right. Now, this is not like American baseball, even though American baseball is in part derided from cricket. Because cricket's structure of having innings and being governed by umpires, the people who created American baseball back now 150 years ago, at least what we now recognize as the official rules of baseball, I should say. People have been playing variations of the game for as long as there have been bats and balls. But what is become known as the standardized rules of baseball is that they took the inning structure and the umpires from cricket, set it at 9 innings, and then put in the out clause, which cricket does not have, at least in the same regard. And what I mean by that is obviously in baseball, you get 3 outs, that's the end of an inning. 3 outs in cricket does not mean the end of an inning. It is relegated by how many overs you have it set at. So in this case, because I set it for 10 overs, basically the batsman will get a maximum of 6 pitches to hit during each over. So it can still be a long game. But unlike baseball, the fielders can't do anything other than really throw it in and try and hit the wickets as the batsmen are running between them. There's no such thing as a double play. There's no such thing as a triple play. There's no infield fly rule. There's none of that. And pretty much there's no foul territory either. I can hit it behind me, and it would be a fair ball. And I'm hoping in the course of doing this that we'll be able to do... So we've already gone through 4 overs, so I'm hoping I can show you at least a little bit of both sides of this game. So what I might do is I might, after this over, I might declare it so you can see the other side and what we do when we have to bowl to the batsman. So that's an out because I hit it back and the fielder who's right behind the wickets caught it. So we managed to get another run in. Now this game is actually just a repackaged version of an earlier cricket game that had been created, which was called Graham Gooch World Class Cricket. So like a lot of sports games, they repurposed all the graphics slapped a new name on it, updated the roster information, and reissued it as Brian Lara Cricket. Can we get back there in time to score 2? Yes, we did. So now we've got 22 runs over 6 wickets. Let's see if we can keep this going. Now, because you can have one batsman there for as long as they can go before they're actually out, which means, again, they hit the wicket, somebody catches it, or they basically tag with the ball is another way they can be out. But we don't have that set up here. Then the same guy can sit there and go and go and go and go. And then you have to think about it in terms of the scoring like darts or even snooker. Because you can get what are called centuries, which means the batsman will accumulate 100 runs or more before they're out. And apparently players like Brian Lara, and you can think of other guys, who was it? I want to say Freddie Freeman, but that's not who I'm thinking of. Whoop. And we've got a late jump on that, so that means they hit the wickets, and we are out. Freddie Flintoff is who I'm thinking of. Before he went on to Top Gear, he was a very, very well-known English cricket player. So we've got 27 runs against 7 wickets, and what we'll do is, after this one, which will be an out, because we got a late jump, this should be the end of this over. Nope, not yet. We get one more over. So you see the 5.5 overs, because you get 6 balls to throw. Is that going to go all the way to the boundary? No. But we scored 2 more runs. And that's the end of the 6th over. So what I'm going to do is, because we're at 18 minutes, I'm just going to declare it here. So that way you can see the flip side of this game, and you can see what it's like to be a bowler and be a fielder. So essentially what we will do is we will have, if India can manage to put together more than 30 runs, they'll have beaten us in this one. So now what we have to do is we've got to pick the spot where the bowler is going to drop the ball. And it is a little tough to be able to figure out where it's going to go, because it will run on its own speed. So now we've picked the spin, and then you tap the B button to get speed. Now, because we set this to have automatic fielders, we don't have to waste time chasing everything. The computer will do it for us. So now what I want to do is I want to kind of put it a little bit out there. You want to kind of have it out in front of the batsman. You don't always need to go for maximum speed if you can help it. It helps to be able to put it in. But it's not like playing conventional baseball where you've got a lot more control over where the ball goes and the speed of the pitch. So I'm going to go for minimal spin this time. Try and go for max speed. And he essentially bunted it. That will be, it's not an out, but that takes care of an over. And keeps him from scoring runs. He sent that one all the way over, and that will be an automatic 4 runs because he rolled it over the boundary line on the ground. If he hit it in the air again, that would have been 6. So it's already 29-7 with 2 more balls to go. Now, you can tap the B button for speed, and you'll immediately see that the speed gauge drops. So if you're not going for maximum speed, it's not a bad trick to have where you can kind of set it up and then let it drop a little bit. And that's an out as he hit it back into the mitts of the fielder behind the wicket. So Sidhu is retired, and that's the end of the first over. So it's 29-7 with 8 wickets for India, 1 wicket for us. And now it'll be our right-handed bowler, who's a power thrower. See what he can do against the same batsman. So we held the run on that one. Now, unlike most of our games, I don't have any reviews or anything of this one. Although that got scorched, that's going to be 4 more across. And I don't have any meta rankings for you because, in part, this game is so old that I don't think there was any real information that was put out there at the time back in 1995 of how popular this game was. Although, I can say, it did spend 10 weeks at number 1 on the UK game charts during the summer of 1995. So it was initially a very popular game. And that ball got bounced away, and that's basically a wild pitch. And that's going to be 4 more runs off of that. He didn't even hit it. But they've gone on to do 5 more versions of this game. The next one came out the following year, and that also was on the MegaDrive. And then Codemasters came out with one in 1999 for the PlayStation and Windows platforms. He scorched that one. That's going to be 4 more runs. But in Australia and New Zealand, rather than having it called Brian Lara Cricket, it was actually called Shane Warne Cricket in Australia and New Zealand. And then it would take another 6 years for the next version of this game to come out, with Brian Lara International Cricket in 2005. And it was developed by Swordfish Studios for Codemasters. So Codemasters, by that point, had conceded development of the franchise to secondary developers. That one came out for the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, and Windows. And it was released to coincide with the 2005 Ashes series, which is the biennial cricket match between England and Australia. And I know that predominantly because Jeremy Clarkson, also of Top Gear, used to rag on Australian guests about the Ashes. Usually when Britain obviously won. And that one's going to roll near the boundary. And then the last version came out in International Cricket 2007. And it was shipped during the 2007 Cricket World Cup. It was available on the PS2 and Xbox 360 as well as Windows. And that was the first console port in the series to have high definition capability on it. So they've already got 24 runs to our 29. And they're going to get a couple more here, as that's 2 more across. Now, when Brian Lara retired from cricket play in 2007, it makes sense that anything bearing his name would have stopped there. And because cricket is not nearly as popular a sport in America as it is elsewhere in the world, I'm sure that they have come out with newer versions of a cricket game since then. But I think what we're going to do is that now that we are at about 25 minutes, and we've gone through 3 overs and they're trailing us by 1 run. So let's do 1 more over. See if we can find a way to keep them from getting an extra run or not. He swung and whiffed on that one. Now, they don't have balls and strikes like they do in American baseball in cricket. That he missed that does not really count for anything. It actually would have been better if he had tipped it. And that's 1 run across, and now we are even. Not counting the number of wickets. No, that was 2 runs across, so now they took the lead. That's going to get close to the boundary. I think that's 2 more runs, so that's 32. Shunted that one far left. And that's another run across. 2 more runs across, so we get 34. Yeah, hitting those wickets is not as easy as you may think. At least not in this game. I don't know if it got easier in later games. That's 2 more runs across. And that's 36-1. And yeah, now that we're at 27.5 minutes, I'm going to call it good there. But that, everybody, is Brian Lara Cricket from 1994/1995 for the Sega Mega Drive/Genesis. Now, let's get the usual stuff out of the way. Is this a good game? Well, that depends. If you are one of the 2.5 billion people on the planet who happens to be a cricket fan, this may be coming as a shock to some of you, but in the hierarchy of sports fandom, cricket is second on the planet only to soccer/football. Anybody in America who thinks that NFL football is the most popular sport in the world, it ain't by a long way. And baseball may still be looked at in some archaic ways as the national pastime, but it's nowhere near as popular as cricket. So, if you're somebody who grew up with the sport and likes the sport, this may be a good game. I will say, as somebody who's an absolute layman novice to this game, I will give it credit for the fact that the graphics are easy to follow. The sound effects aren't terrible for being 30 years old. I like that there's no music playing during the game that drowns out anything. The controls are actually really, really easy. Again, like I said, it all comes down to using your B button. And you can set up your standard controller however you want. Again, I'm playing with an Xbox One controller, so mainly what I was actually doing was hitting the A button the entire time. But that you only have to worry about hitting one button, and then when you are hitting and or bowling, how you use the D-pad can determine the way that the ball is either going to throw or travel as you throw it, or the direction it's going to come off your bat. So you can go for, if you hold down, you can go for like a power swing. You can try and hook it one way or the other, but it lessens your probability of making contact as you go. So in that respect, the mechanics of it are, best I can tell, accurate to the actual sport. Now, also bear in mind, this game is 30 years old, so the rules and the confines of the game, as far as how it's constructed, in terms of how many overs, how long each match is, can vary drastically by comparison to how things may be nowadays. One thing that you can do in this game is it does come with an automatic save feature between overs. If you go to the match button, you can save the game and then pick up where you left off. So not unlike the actual players, breaks and taking days to recoup and get some sleep between sides and between overs is baked in. Is this a game they could make today? Again, it's a sport with 2.5 billion followers of it. I have no reason to think that they could not make a modern cricket game. And I would imagine there's probably a couple variations of it out there now. What those are, I couldn't tell you. Like I said, this game was originally designed to be released only in Europe. It never came over to the US. And that was part of my interest in trying it out. I'm always looking for new games that never made it to American shores. That's why we're playing Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden for our ongoing playthrough, in part because I love them, and two, they were never released here. So like we did way back in the early part of this series, and we're now 70 plus episodes in, with Aussie Rules Football, it's nice to have a change of pace and go in a different direction with it. But like I said, that's Brian Lara Cricket from 1995, and that is Sports Saturday. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. We will have Sucker Punch Sunday, where we play a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And as a reminder, like I said, we are going to go back and start Season 2 of NFL 2K2 for the Sega Dreamcast, but that will start at the end of November, start of December. So give it about 2 weeks. We just want to give it a little bit of a rest and try some other stuff. Be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads. We're on Retrocade to help spread the word about us as we continue to build this channel, make it bigger and better. And again, I can't say this often enough. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed over the last couple of weeks. We have seen a massive uptick in our subscriber base. So it's not by leaps and bounds by thousands of people, but we've gone from about 150 to nearly 250 subscribers in about 8 weeks, which means we're getting more people to tune in. We're getting more eyes on us and what we're doing, and we're hopefully starting to draw more people in, which is what our goal always was. And we're doing it in as organic a way as we can. So thank you again to everybody who has subscribed. Hopefully, this won't throw you off too much by watching this episode this week, but normal service will be restored in due time. But that's enough for one Saturday. My name is Ronan. It's been great to spend this Sports Saturday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming. We'll talk to you tomorrow as we dive back into Sucker Punch Sunday. Bye.